Let's be real. Some people drain your energy, waste your time, and call it friendship. And the worst part? You know it. But you're too afraid to let go. Today, I'm calling out behaviors that should instantly disqualify someone from your inner circle. It's bold. It's controversial. And yes, it might make you rethink half your contact list. But before we dive in, if you're into deep, thought-provoking insights on Stoicism, self-improvement, and navigating life with clarity and wisdom, you'll love my free Sunday newsletter. Every week I share powerful lessons, raw truths, and practical strategies to help you level up. No fluff, just pure value. Want in? Tap the link below and start feeding your mind every Sunday. And hey, if you're a brand that wants to sponsor honest, high-impact content and reach a deeply engaged audience, my email is in the description. Let's build something that actually matters. Number 1, they never apologize, even when they're wrong. Let's talk about the one trait that quietly poisons friendships, slowly kills trust, and somehow still flies under the radar. Because people love to disguise it as just being confident. I'm talking about people who never apologize, even when they are objectively, undeniably 180 degrees wrong. You know the type. You catch them saying something hurtful or crossing a clear boundary, and instead of owning it, they hit you with, "I didn't mean it that way. You're being too sensitive." Well, maybe you misunderstood me. And in that moment, you start questioning your own reality. Did I really hear it that way? Maybe I'm overreacting. Congratulations. You've just been gaslit by someone who should be your friend. Now, here's the controversial truth most people are too scared to say out loud. Refusing to apologize isn't strength. It's emotional cowardice. It's insecurity wearing the mask of confidence. And it's one of the most toxic traits someone can bring into your life. Because if someone never says sorry, what they're really saying is, "My ego matters more than your feelings. I care more about being right than making things right. You can get hurt, and I won't do a damn thing about it. Because in my world, I do no wrong." That's not a friend. That's a narcissist with a good Spotify playlist. Why it's so dangerous and sneakily common. Here's the messed up part. A lot of us are trained to excuse this behavior. We hear, "Oh, that's just how they are. They're not good with words. They didn't grow up in a family that said sorry." And listen, compassion is great. Trauma is real. Upbringing matters. But being a grown adult means taking responsibility for how you show up in relationships. If someone can drive a car, pay rent, and file taxes, they can learn how to say, "I was wrong, I'm sorry." Because here's the kicker. Everyone messes up. Everyone hurts people, even accidentally. That's human. The difference between someone safe and someone dangerous is whether they're willing to own it. How it shows up, aka subtle red flags. Not all non-apologizers are loud about it. Some are slick. They'll use deflection. "I guess I just can't say anything around you anymore." Or intellectual superiority. Well, logically speaking, it wasn't wrong because technically, shut up, Harvard. You hurt someone. Just apologize. Or victim flipping. "Wow, I guess I'm just a horrible person then." That one is especially toxic because it makes you feel guilty for even bringing up the issue. They twist the spotlight back onto themselves, and suddenly you're apologizing to them, just to keep the peace. And that's when you know you're stuck in a toxic dynamic. When you start apologizing to people who should be apologizing to you. I had a friend like this. Let's call him Z. Zay was the guy everyone loved. Funny, smart, magnetic. But when it came to conflict, emotionally bankrupt, he never took accountability for anything. He'd show up late to plans without texting, say borderline offensive stuff as a joke, and once even blew up on me during a group trip because I suggested we split the check evenly. But whenever I'd bring something up, he'd flip it. "You're being dramatic. You know I didn't mean it that way. God, you're so sensitive lately. What's going on with you?" Eventually, I realized every disagreement ended the same way. Me apologizing, just to avoid the discomfort of confrontation. Not because I was wrong, but because it was the only way to keep the friendship alive. Until one day, I asked myself, why am I working this hard to maintain a friendship that he's not even trying to be responsible for? And that was the day I stopped doing the emotional labor for people who refused to carry their end of the relationship. Here's what I've learned, and it took years of therapy, journaling, and having my heart broken by people who couldn't say, "I'm sorry." A real apology isn't weakness, it's strength. It takes humility to admit you're wrong. It takes emotional intelligence to make it right. And it takes maturity to prioritize connection over ego. So when someone never apologizes, especially when they know they messed up, what they're saying is, "My pride is more important than your pain." And if that's the foundation of the friendship, then what are we even building? A real friend doesn't shame you for being hurt. They don't invalidate your experience. They don't ghost the conversation because it's uncomfortable. A real friend listens, reflects, and when they screw up, they say the two words that heal more than we realize. "I'm sorry." And they say it without excuses, without ego, without making it about them. If you're in a friendship where someone never apologizes, ask yourself, how much peace am I sacrificing just to avoid their defensiveness? How often am I silencing myself so they can stay comfortable? Because your voice matters, your boundaries matter, and your pain isn't a problem, it's a signal. You don't need perfect friends, but you do need accountable ones. And that's why they never apologize even when they're wrong is not just a red flag. It's a deal breaker. Number 2, they're always the victim, and somehow you're always the villain. Ah, yes, the kind of friend who could start a fire, burn the whole room down, and then look at you like you handed them the matches. Let me paint the picture. You bring up a concern. Maybe they forgot your birthday. Maybe they made a passive-aggressive comment in front of others. Maybe they just haven't been showing up the way a true friend should. And instead of accountability, what do you get? Wow, I guess I'm just a terrible person, huh? No one ever understands me. People are always attacking me. Suddenly, you're not having a conversation. You're stuck in a one-person therapy session where your role is the unpaid emotional support animal. Here's the part that might ruffle some feathers. People who constantly play the victim are often the most manipulative ones in the room. Yep, I said it. And before anyone jumps in, I'm not talking about real victims of trauma or abuse. I'm talking about people who turn every interpersonal conflict into a sob story where they're always the innocent one. Because here's the math. If everyone in their life has done them wrong, if every ex was toxic, if every job was unfair, if every friend betrayed them at some point, it's not a coincidence, it's a pattern. And guess what? Patterns don't lie. People do. These are the folks who could cheat in Uno, flip the table and still say, "This is why I don't trust anyone. Everyone turns on me." Like, "Sir, you're holding 4 draw 4s. You are the problem." But they don't see it that way. In their world, they're the misunderstood hero of a tragic play. In reality, They're just difficult and always deflecting. You can't confront them. You can't correct them. You can't even disagree with them without it spiraling into a dramatic monologue about how no one ever listens, or everyone always leaves. And maybe people do leave because they're tired of being held emotionally hostage. Here's where it gets messy. These people are often really likable. They're empathetic, relatable, even fun. They share personal stories that tug at your heartstrings. They overshare quickly to build false intimacy. And they genuinely believe they're always the one being wronged. That's why, when conflict arises, you start doubting yourself. That's the trap. You think, they've been through so much. Maybe I was too harsh. I don't want to abandon them like everyone else has. Maybe I should just be more understanding. And slowly, your boundaries start to bend. Your needs shrink. You stop bringing up issues just to avoid the emotional roller coaster. And just like that, you've been manipulated. Not by malice, but by chronic victimhood disguised as vulnerability. I had a friend like this. Let's call her Lena. Lena had a tragic backstory for every chapter of her life, and I believed her. I supported her through everything: breakups, job issues, family chaos. I even lent her money when she said she was in a tough spot. But anytime I gently brought up how she hurt me, it turned into a sob fest. I'm so sorry I'm such a burden. You're just like everyone else. I guess I'm too broken for anyone to love. And every time, I caved. I consoled her. I apologized, even when I was the one who'd been hurt. Then came the breaking point. She called me crying, saying her roommate had unfairly kicked her out. I offered to help her find a place to stay. A week later, I found out from that same roommate that Lena hadn't paid rent in 4 months and had been lying about it to everyone. That was the moment the mask cracked. It wasn't just a victim complex. It was a strategy, whether she realized it or not, to avoid accountability and guilt trip everyone around her. I cut ties that week. Here's what I've learned, and I want you to really let this sink in. Someone who always plays the victim will eventually make you feel like the villain, no matter how much love you give. And here's the scary part. It's not always intentional. Some people are so consumed by their unresolved pain, so identified with their wounds, that they don't know how to exist in a relationship without playing the martyr. But intention doesn't erase impact. Because when you're constantly made to feel like the bad guy for setting boundaries, expressing needs, or asking for respect, you lose yourself. You become smaller, quieter, nicer, until one day, you don't recognize who you are anymore. You cannot fix someone who is addicted to their own suffering. You cannot be enough for someone who believes they are always betrayed. And you cannot build a healthy friendship with someone who refuses to see their role in the mess. We all deserve grace, but grace without growth becomes enabling. And choosing your peace over someone else's endless pity party? That's not cruel. That's survival. If someone is always the victim and never the mirror, they're not just exhausting to be around. They're dangerous to your emotional and mental clarity. You don't have to hate them, but you do have to stop letting them write the story where you're the villain, just because you finally stood up for yourself. Number 3, they talk trash about everyone and somehow expect loyalty. You ever meet someone who can't make it through lunch without verbally assassinating at least 3 people who aren't even in the room? I'm talking about the professional shade throwers, the gossip-fueled, drama-fed, negativity-obsessed commentators of other people's lives. They'll trash their coworkers, mock their best friend's choices, and absolutely eviscerate people they claim to love like a sister, all before the appetizers even show up. And here's the thing people hate to admit. We've all laughed along at some point. It's fun, until it's about you. Let's be 100% real here. If someone is constantly bad-mouthing everyone around them, what makes you think you're exempt? You're not special. You're just not present. You're not their safe space. You're just today's audience. And if you're foolish enough to believe otherwise, congrats. You've been promoted to temporary co-conspirator in the slander Olympics. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't like facing. Talking trash isn't a personality trait. It's a coping mechanism for people who don't know how to look inward. They'll say things like, "I'm just being honest," or "I keep it real," or "I can't stand fake people." Translation: I lack emotional maturity, feed off conflict, and confuse cruelty with authenticity. These folks will roast someone for breathing wrong. "Oh my God, did you see what she posted? She thinks she's an influencer now. He got a promotion? Must be nice to suck your way to the top." It's always something. I once knew someone, let's call her Chelsea, who could find fault in Mother Teresa if you gave her 5 uninterrupted minutes. She had a nickname for everyone, never to their face, knew everyone's dirt or made some up, and played puppet master in every friend group. But guess what? She was charming, hilarious, super fun. So we tolerated it. We laughed along. We even joined in. And then one day, it was my turn. I confided in Chelsea about something personal. I was going through a rough time, feeling like I was failing at everything. She listened, nodded, offered empathy. Cool. A few days later, someone else from our circle DM'd me. "Hey, not trying to start anything, but Chelsea told me you were having a breakdown and can't handle your life right now." Excuse me, what? I felt betrayed, exposed, mocked, and suddenly, all those times I laughed with her about other people didn't feel so funny anymore. Because here's the thing. The way someone treats others is a preview of how they'll eventually treat you. Chelsea wasn't loyal. She wasn't real. She was a walking red flag in designer sneakers. I cut her off, and I cut off the version of myself that tolerated that energy too. Here's what I've realized, and this is important. People who constantly trash others are almost always deflecting from themselves. It's projection. It's insecurity. It's emotional laziness disguised as wit. It's a cheap way to bond. Yeah, gossip can feel juicy. You feel included, connected, in the know. But that bond? That's not friendship. That's shared judgment. And as soon as you fall out of favor, you become the next episode. Think about it. You can't build trust on a foundation of betrayal. You can't build intimacy on a foundation of disrespect. You can't build a future with someone who weaponizes other people's flaws just to feel better about their own. Real friends hype you up behind your back. Fake friends tear you down as soon as you leave the room. After practicing on others, here's the harder truth. If you stay silent while someone talks trash about others, you're participating. And yeah, it's awkward to challenge that energy. But silence is compliance, and you don't rise by aligning yourself with people who only feel big when others feel small. You know what's cooler than being in the loop? Being known for shutting the loop down. Try saying, "That's not really my business. I'd rather not talk about them like that." Have you talked to them directly? Yeah, it'll kill the vibe, but you'll sleep better at night and eventually attract people who respect the same boundaries you do. If someone's entire personality revolves around tearing others down, ask yourself, what are they avoiding in themselves? What would they say about me if I wasn't here? Is this a vibe or a virus? Because it's only a matter of time before their jokes include your name. People who constantly talk trash about everyone aren't keeping it real. They're just keeping themselves small by cutting everyone else down. You don't have to match their energy. You don't have to stay quiet. And you definitely don't have to stay friends with someone who mistakes cruelty for connection. Number 4. They mock your growth because it exposes their stagnation. Let's talk about one of the most infuriating types of people to keep in your life. The ones who mock your growth. You start going to the gym. Oh wow, who are you trying to impress? Mr. Fitness now, huh? You start reading books. What? You think you're better than us now? You start setting boundaries. Oh, I forgot. Healing era, right? Must be nice to cut people off for no reason. Suddenly, every time you do something positive for yourself, they've got jokes. They act like it's a phase, a gimmick, an ego trip. But let me give you the honest, unfiltered truth. People who mock your growth are terrified of their own lack of it. They'll do anything to bring you back down to their comfort zone, because your evolution threatens their excuses. This might sting a little, but it's the truth. When you start healing, working out, reading, saving money, saying no, leveling up in any way, you stop being relatable to people who are comfortable being stuck. And instead of saying, wow, I'm inspired, maybe I should level up too, they choose envy. Ew, who does she think she is? Here's the dirty secret. It's not really about you. It's about what your growth reveals about them. It shines a light on their procrastination, their complacency, their avoidance, their lack of discipline. So rather than reflect, they deflect. Rather than applaud, they mock. Rather than grow, they gossip. Because staying stagnant is easier when everyone else is too. Let's be real. Some of these people act like your self-improvement is a personal attack. You wake up early, they say you're fake deep. You go to therapy, suddenly you're too sensitive. You eat clean for a month, now you're boring. Like, bro, I'm just trying to digest without a Tums. Relax. They'll roll their eyes when you mention your new goals. They'll make sarcastic comments about your new mindset. They'll even try to tempt you back into old habits. Come on, just one drink. You're no fun anymore. But here's the kicker. They're not joking. They're testing. Testing to see if you're really committed. Testing to see if they still have influence. Testing to see if you'll shrink back down to fit their comfort zone. Let me tell you about my old friend. Let's call him Zach. We grew up together, drank together, complained about life together. Same jobs, same routines, same Sunday dreams. Then I started to change. I stopped partying every weekend, started journaling, started lifting, got into Stoicism, started saying no when things didn't align, and slowly but surely, Zach became mean. Oh wow, Socrates now? Didn't know you were too good for us, bro. You really think all this mindset crap makes a difference? At first, I laughed it off, figured it was just jokes. But the more I grew, the more the sarcasm turned into hostility. One day, after I turned down a party invite, he texted, "You've changed. You're not fun anymore." And you know what? He was right. I had changed. Because fun used to mean self-destruction. Now fun meant peace, clarity, purpose. So I responded, "Yeah, I've changed, and I'm proud of it." I didn't hear from him again. But I've never felt more free. Here's the spiritual reality. Your growth will cost you people who only like the broken version of you. And it's not your job to stay small just to keep them comfortable. Growth is a filter. It separates those who love the real you from those who loved the version of you who tolerated dysfunction, played it safe, and stayed quiet. You don't owe anyone an explanation for evolving. You don't need to shrink to be accepted. And you definitely don't need to apologize for doing what they won't. It's not your fault that their comfort zone doesn't fit your vision. Look, not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some will envy it. Some will mock it. And some will resent it, because it reminds them of all the things they promised themselves they'd do, but didn't. Let them. Your job isn't to convince them. Your job is to keep growing anyway. Because at the end of the day, the only thing worse than being mocked for changing is waking up one day and realizing you stayed the same, just to be liked by people who were never growing in the first place. If they mock your growth, they're revealing their fear. Don't take it personally. Just take it as confirmation. You're on the right track. Number 5, they ignore your boundaries because your no disrupts their control. Let's talk about one of the biggest red flags in friendships and relationships, and yet one of the most socially excused. People who ignore your boundaries, not misunderstand them, not accidentally cross them once and apologize. I mean the people who look you dead in the eye, hear your no, and bulldoze right through it, like you didn't say anything at all. These are the folks who treat your personal limits like suggestions on a Starbucks cup, optional, dismissible, and kind of annoying to them. Here's a controversial truth. People who ignore boundaries don't love you. They love control. This might sting a little, but here's the reality. If someone consistently ignores your boundaries, they're not confused. They're entitled. They believe their access to you is more important than your well-being, that your discomfort is a small price to pay for their convenience. And when you finally start asserting your boundaries, watch how quickly the mask slips. They'll say, "You've changed. You're being selfish. You're too sensitive now." Translation: I liked it better when I could walk all over you without consequences. They don't miss the old you. They miss the version of you who didn't have the courage to say, "That's not okay." They're everywhere. The friend who always shows up uninvited and then says, "You know I'm spontaneous." Translation: I don't care about your time or space. The coworker who dumps emotional baggage on you every lunch break, even after you've said, "I need space today." Translation: I think your energy exists to regulate my chaos. The family member who keeps bringing up that one topic you asked them not to talk about in front of others. Again, translation: I value drama more than your dignity. And don't even get me started on the exes who treat "we're not talking anymore" like a mere vibe check, rather than a final decision. Boundaries to them are like speed limits in Grand Theft Auto, mildly annoying and routinely ignored. Let me share something. A few years ago, I had a close friend. Let's call him Dev. He was charming, hilarious, fun, and constantly disrespectful in subtle ways. He would borrow stuff without asking, crash at my place uninvited, make jokes that crossed the line, and push conversations into uncomfortable territory. And when I'd say, "Hey, not cool," he'd laugh it off with, "You're too uptight, man, lighten up." Eventually, I hit my limit. I sat him down and said, "Look, I need you to respect my space and not turn everything into a joke at my expense." He nodded and said, "Got it." The next week, back to the same behavior. That's when I realized, some people will acknowledge your boundaries just enough to pretend they care, but not enough to actually change. I distanced myself. And guess what? He told others I had become too sensitive and couldn't take a joke anymore. But you know what I really became? A version of myself that respected my own peace more than their approval. Boundaries are a language. Pay attention to who refuses to learn. Here's the spiritual truth people don't want to talk about. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're doors to show you who's willing to knock and who feels entitled to barge in. It's not about being too sensitive. It's about being too awake to tolerate emotional trespassing. And here's what I've learned. The people who truly value you will adjust when you set a boundary. The people who only value what they get from you will resist. Boundaries expose intentions. They reveal what the relationship was really built on. If it falls apart when you say, "I need space," it was never connection, it was control. Let's get one thing clear. Saying no is not mean. Needing space is not rude. Being unavailable is not selfish. Not answering immediately is not disrespect. It's called having a spine. And if someone truly cares for you, they'll honor your boundaries, not guilt you into erasing them. If someone consistently ignores your boundaries, they're showing you who they really are. Believe them. Protect your peace. Honor your no. And don't ever apologize for choosing self-respect over approval. Listen, if you're the kind of person who's been outgrowing circles, raising your standards, setting boundaries, and watching people fall off, let me be the first to say, good. You're not crazy. You're not cold. You're not too much. You're just finally respecting yourself, loud enough that those who preferred the passive version of you are getting uncomfortable. Let them. Keep growing. Keep healing. Keep evolving. Because the people who genuinely see you, they won't be threatened by your glow-up. They'll be inspired by it. And hey, if this message hit home for you, then you're going to love my free newsletter. Every Sunday, I send out real talk just like this. Deep insights, unapologetic truth bombs, and practical strategies to help you level up your mind, your relationships, and your peace. No fluff, no fake positivity, just straight wisdom. The link to sign up is below. It's 100% free, and I promise it'll be the most valuable email in your inbox. And for any brands out there who align with this kind of honest, growth-driven content, my email is in the description. Let's collaborate and build something powerful. Until next time, protect your energy, question the noise, and remember, growth doesn't ruin relationships. It reveals the ones that were never real to begin with. Stay grounded, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.